Three. All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, out there in YouTube land, I have the honor to have a good friend of mine as well as my fraternity brother, brother Freddie Hires here. He is an insurance agent, and the topic today we're going to talk about is some of the things about getting insurance and the importance of getting insurance. But before we do that, you have to kind of give you a little lesson on the different types of insurance on a very basic level. And he's going to go through that, and I'm going to ask him a series of questions about the importance of insurance and the type of insurance that you may qualify for. So, Brother Hires, how's it going today?
Doing good, doing good. Glad to be here.
Great, great, great. So tell us a little about yourself. I know you're a Tuskegee graduate, alumnus, graduate, that proud Tuskegee alumnus. So tell us a
Yes,
little about yourself.
Well, I was raised in Tuskegee. I was born in 71. I was raised in Tuskegee like my mother since 73. I graduated from Tuskegee University in 94, and I received my MBA from Auburn University in 2000. My background mostly started working in financial services with we were Regions for a while. I was with a company called Total Systems, which is merged now with Global Payments. And 2007, I got became a real estate agent. And I've been working also as a real estate agent and an insurance agent, life insurance agent primarily, since 2014. In 2014, I worked with Nationwide and State Farm, and I've been basically an independent broker for life insurance since 2015.
Awesome, awesome. And you and I know, and I worked with you briefly as well before, briefly going back with Primerica as well as other insurance agents. I know it's you have to be very patient in that field because some days them sales are clicking, then you have those days like, wow, I chose this field. It's like in anything you're dealing with sales, car sales, insurance sales, you're selling houses. You're going to have those glows and you're going to have those lows. So, brothers, can you distinguish the difference between, I know when I was there at certain life insurance companies, some only sold just term insurance and the others say, hey, we sell whole life. Could you tell the difference between, to the person that said, hey, I'm looking at insurance, but I don't know what to get? What is the difference between a whole life insurance and a term insurance?
Well, a term insurance is similar to paying rent on an apartment. You get what you need for a certain period of time. It could be from 5 years. It could be all the way out to 40 years in some cases. But when at the end of that term, you don't own anything. You don't have any coverage. You haven't built up any equity. It's over. A cash value policy can come in many different varieties, but they usually last for the entirety of your life once you start. If you started at 18 or if you started at 62, once it's put in place, it lasts for your lifetime. And inside of those policies, it's kind of like buying a house. With the house, you buy it and you may accumulate equity over time. You get a certain amount of cash value, kind of like equity inside of an insurance policy. And that power inside of those cash value policies can be very, very beneficial to you when it comes to planning out your financial future, especially when it comes to retirement or future purchases or even starting a business.
Yes, that's very good information. I know when I was in the field, I normally tell people if possible, get both, because the term was more or less like cash or income replacement. But once you pay off that house and everything, and you send there 60, 65, your house is paid for, you have a little lump sum saved up, all your kids are grown, you pretty much have access with your house and any investments you made. So I just say at that point, I would say get both. That term goes on, and you don't want to continue to pay that term unless you want to keep some generational wealth. So that's kind of like when I was in the field, I kind of explained it to the people there. So that being said, you kind of summed it up, but can you go further in depth, the pros and cons of each for a term? If someone asks you questions like, okay, what are the negatives, the positive of a term in life insurance? What is the negative of a term? And then also, what is the pros and cons of whole life?
Well, to me, when it comes to term, is the pros are that it's inexpensive. If a young person is 21 years old and know what they want to do, they can actually get an adult can get a $500,000 policy for less than the cost of your water bill. And if something was to happen to that person over the next 30 years, and like I said, in some cases 40 years, that's $500,000 that can go to the mother, child, whomever. So it fits into most people's budget some kind of a way. There are other term policies that I actually provide through Transamerica. Well, you can use some of the benefits if something catastrophic was to happen. Or it's a cancer scare or sickness or illness. That's usually not available in a lot of term policies, but it is possible. But the biggest advantage would be the cost and the amount of coverage that you can get for that cost.
Right.
Now, the disadvantage is when it's over, and the older you get, the more expensive it gets. I mean, every 10 years of life, there's a tremendous jump. What you pay at 18 is not what you're going to see at 28. And when you get to 48, oh boy, there's a tremendous difference in cost. We go from at 18 being able to afford life insurance for less than your water bill. A term policy starts to look like a car note when you turn 48 or 58. And as a matter of fact, I think the cutoff, I don't think no company offers a term policy for anybody over 75 because, you're kind of out of the game.
Right.
Now, when it comes to cash value policies, there are two types. There were several types. You have some that people use them for just coverage. They just want something to pay out. They want to pass something on to the next generation and have something there for final expenses. Then you have those where people like, I got something to give to my next generation. I want this for me. So you have tax advantages. This is ways to grow money inside of a policy and legally avoid paying taxes. You have the fact that whatever your price is, that's going to be your price throughout. If you decide to get a $300,000 policy and it costs you $300 when you're 28 years old, when you turn 78 years old, it's still going to be the same cost. And hopefully it's easier to pay that $300 down the line. The negatives would be that it's expensive. We go through life, when they first started these policies early on right after World War II, it was simple to get a job and hold on to it for 30 years. But once you get this price at 25 in 2022, you're looking at a layoff sometimes. You're looking at, catastrophes happening, and you may not be able to keep that job or the income could change for whatever reason, but you still fight to hold on to that policy because you don't want it to lapse and have to start over at a later age. So the down part would be, to me, the premiums. But man, they're much. I think the upside is greater for them if they fit into your budget.
Right. And this thing about it is when you look at it, you go in, you say, look, do I really need this $175 cable bill? Can I cut back on stars and because I want to watch Power and get that life insurance, or you can just get the disc. So I kind of tell it's all come down to priorities too as well, and I'm glad you mentioned the age of the policies. Now, as we do know, they do take into consideration health factors as well. Could you kindly explain the three qualification categories for life insurance policies?
Well, you have your age, of course, the age that you are, any pre-existing health conditions, and smoking. I have a guy who is, I don't know, he's a runner. He runs like a 6-minute mile.
I'm
He's
jealous.
in shape. He's 50. He's in shape, but and his policy rate is pretty good, saying that he's already 50. But just because he has the one little habit of, let's say 2 stogies a week, his premium doubles, just like that.
Right.
It just doubles, and it's the same thing for a younger guy. I know he's like 32, in shape, healthy, young. Premium double, just like that,
Mhm.
because he's a smoker,
Mhm.
cigarette smoker. So that is one of the most powerful ones. If you have something you really can help, like smoking, even if you can give it up for like a year or two, get the policy and go back to doing what you want to do. You didn't hear that from me. But
Mhm.
if you can hold it off for a little while and get the policy put in place without being a smoker,
Right.
it's going to be just a lot cheaper. Now we get into the subject of weight. And of course, you can't get to a certain weight with other health. Like I say, if you have hypertension and you're a certain weight, you can't be covered.
Mhm.
You have one of the others, you may be able to be covered.
Right.
And because I'm a broker, I work with different companies. Some companies won't touch you once you get to a certain height, a certain weight, depending on your height. But I
Mhm.
have other ones that they'll give you a policy, but trust me when I say you're going to pay for it.
It's going to be really, really expensive.
It's going to
So,
be really expensive.
so that being said, and you talk about the smokers there. So, can you distinguish between the preferred rate, standard rate, as well as the substandard rate when it comes to insurance? When someone asks those questions, and how do they fall in those three different areas?
Yeah, the plain and simple of, if you ever looked at a BMI table,
Mm-hmm.
the body mass index table, if you're listed as obese category 1 or category 2, you're going to get what they call rated. Rated
Mm-hmm.
means you're going to pay more,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
You're going to get rated even if you're listed as overweight.
Right.
If they do subsequent tests and find out your normal blood pressure, normal glucose levels, they may say,
Mm-hmm.
well, she's a little overweight, so let's give her just a standard rate.
Right.
If you are obese 1 or 2, listed as obese, you're going to get a substandard rate, which is going to be, you're going to pay more. But if you're a person and you're listed as normal, and I will tell you, you can be rejected for being underweight as well.
Then I did not. That I didn't know. That I didn't know. I didn't know that.
I
I
know
don't have that
someone
problem.
Yeah, I don't have that problem either, but trust me, on the other end of the spectrum, on that same scale, you cannot be underweight.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever that means, but some people are runners and underweight.
Mm-hmm.
So they get all this stuff from the tables. The insurance companies, they're